Right, C40 Cities Mayors Summit. It's happening in Johannesburg in South Africa. And we've got mayors that have come from all over the world to be part of this and have a conversation about crucial issues, climate change being one of them. Now, we're talking to one mayor who's come all the way from Houston in Texas in the US, and it's the Mayor AnniseParker. Thank you very much for joining us. Welcome.
Glad to be with you.
So why is Houston part of this C40 network?
Well, this is a coalition of the world's mega cities, and I think it is important for Houston to be a part of it because we are the acknowledged U.S. capital for oil and gas and arguably the world capital for oil and gas. And so if an oil and gas city is committed to greenhouse gas reduction and sustainability, it's an important statement. I love shocking people with a very simple fact. The city of Houston is the largest municipal purchaser of renewable energy in the United States. 50% of what fuels the city of Houston is renewable energy. And yet I lead an oil and gas city, and I spent 20 years working in the oil and gas industry before I went into politics. This is about what kind of future do we want for the world. It's about what kind of things we can do together to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, and it matters.
All right, you talked about networks that this C40 Cities has created and brings to the party. Which ones are you a part of, and how have they been useful to you?
Most of what happens through the C40 is at the staff-to-staff level. I have a sustainability director for the city of Houston. It's a position I created when I came in as mayor, and she participates in a number of the different dialogues. What is important to me is to talk to my fellow mayors. It's one thing to read a report about a sustainability initiative or an energy efficiency initiative. It's another to actually talk to a mayor and say, tell me really what you had to do in order to get this past your city government or to get buy-in from the citizens. And so that's where I participate.
How useful has this mayor-to-mayor peer network been for you?
It's extremely useful, which is why I'm happy to be here. For example, I was in Rio and saw Rio's bike share program and came back absolutely determined to put in a bike share program. At that time, I think there were only 7 cities with bike share. Well, now the city of Houston is one of the cities with a bike share program. It just wasn't on my radar, but it has been hugely popular.
All right, what about Johannesburg? You're here. You've been here a couple of days now. What learnings do you think you might be able to take back from here, back to Houston, and maybe even leave for the city of Johannesburg?
Well, I'm going to be meeting with Mayor Parks Tao this afternoon, so we haven't had our one-on-one conversation yet. But I did have the opportunity to tour the city yesterday, to look at Soweto, to look at a parks transformation on a former dump site. How they're using reed beds in the water catchment area to clean water. All of those are things I've seen in other cities, but the scale is impressive. I also visited a new school building built in 5 days. I think it's St. Peter Martin's School. But the impressive thing to me was all of the building materials were recycled. Until I saw for myself, I didn't realize that a PET window, not a glass window, could look exactly like a glass window. And I'm going to go back and challenge. We are greening Houston, but I want to go back and challenge some of my site folks to see if we can use some of this technology.
Is there anything you can leave for Johannesburg that you've learned over the years in Houston?
One of the things I've been talking about is that in some parts of the world, it's easy to talk about climate change and greenhouse gases. I come from an oil-producing state in the heart of the fossil fuel industry. We have to talk about health impacts and bottom line. It's not about some vague concepts of what's good for the planet. You have to make concrete examples of everything you do, and you have to connect to people's daily lives. And that's part of my message to my fellow mayors, that this is about doing the right thing, but relating that right thing to real concrete positive impacts, either lowering the cost of doing business as a city or improving the health benefits and life of your citizens.
All right. Now you've been mayor quite a long time now. I believe three terms.
I've been mayor of Houston 4 years.
Okay. All right. So my question for you is, climate change is something that's really hit Houston quite a bit. You've had hurricanes, you've had droughts, and I just wonder, over the years, how much the game has changed for you, and what is it that you're doing differently now? Is it very much on the agenda now, much more than before, as a city for you?
I spent 12 years in City of Houston government before I was elected mayor, and I'm very familiar with the workings of the city. We're a coastal city, we're a port city, we're used to flooding. If you had asked me on the top 100 things I would worry about as a mayor, drought would not be one of them. And yet, in 2011, Houston had the worst drought in our recorded almost 200-year history, and the state of Texas is in a severe drought. Those kinds of climate extremes force us to take a step back and reevaluate how we work for the future. I didn't have any water trucks. Because we have so much rain, I don't have to water plantings across the city. I'm not going to go out and buy a whole bunch of water trucks in anticipation that this drought is going to last. I'm going to go back and say, what can we do to make sure that the water we have is available where we need it? And we're also a city that is, as you said, prone to hurricanes. The intensity and impact of those hurricanes is increasing. I can't on my own respond to that, but I am part of a convening of local government officials, and we're talking about, is there something we can do to physically improve the safety of the entire coastal community, literally traveling to places like the Netherlands to talk about, can we create a storm barrier to protect the coast? So short term, long term.
And C40, great vehicle for you moving forward.
C40 is a great vehicle because I have access to best practices. I have access to great technical advice and advisors, and I have access to the help and support of my fellow mayors who know exactly what my job is like.
Mayor AnniseParker, thank you very much indeed for spending time with us and sharing your thoughts with us.